Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Real Sports Scope on this. What is today's date, folks? The 10th day of August. I am a little bit behind. On my predictions in the NFL, but I assure you, everybody, I will get caught up even if I have to miss another day's work to do so, which it looks like I'll probably have to, but I've been really putting in the heavy hours in here lately. Got a lot of money. Little bit of money to put back. I'll use the word lie because people try to hit me up for it, but friends and family. But anyway, got a great show with you on for the night. So WNBA player gets away with flagrant foul on Sophie Cunningham and racist remark. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that. Start out the show about that. Plus, going to talk the NFC North. And I've got a few screenshots to talk about as well. So stand by. We'll take our first and only break. I'll be back here momentarily. We'll hit the ground running here on the Real Sports Scope. Hello, Sports Scope followers. The program has seen tremendous growth since going 5 days a week. I just wanted to thank everybody for your cash contributions and sharing the program with friends and families. Just a reminder, if you want to contribute to the program, go to the Cash App, the cash sign, and Sports Scope. There are other ways to contribute to the program listed at the bottom of the screen. If you want to advertise on the program, go to Sports, that is Sports with an S, another S, Scope, SKOPE, at gmail.com, just like it's listed at the bottom of the screen. Thank you and enjoy the program. All righty then, I'm back here live on all links. You know, before I get into this, let me tell you, this drama with intention, it's got to be good for ratings. The negativity aside with it, with this WNBA team, this Sophie Cunningham, this Caitlin Clark, the strife with the WNBA leadership or lack thereof it, the jealousy, the envy, and now the racism, it has really turned into the good versus evil, or whichever side you want to be on it. It's really, it's gotten a lot of people's attention. I hope we get to a place where it's just about the strong back. That being said, this does kind of remind me of 80s NBA as far as the actual basketball part of it. It reminds me of the Bill and Beer saga with Larry Bird and the Boston Celtics, where the Celtics and the Pistons, there's documentaries on this, where it's straight bush league by the Pistons, trying to get in the heads of the more talented then 80 Celtics teams who went on to win 3 titles in the 80s. Remember at the end of the 80s, the Pistons ended up winning 2 back-to-back championships. But these kind of fouls, this physical play the WNBA has allowed to happen is very much like that. The basketball side of it, the physicality side of the WNBA, the strife here and what's not. This is interesting. You know, the World Cup has gotten past us. We're still just into training camp in the NFL. No real games are happening yet. Baseball winding down, but this is my brief on baseball. Major League Baseball just now got past their trade deadline. Like I said before, Major League Baseball should be heading into their postseason. Now they would be more interesting. We're kind of in that zone. So the stuff that happens in the WNBA is getting a lot more media publicity than it normally would, say, if this were in, say, the middle of college football and the NFL season, according to viewership and whatnot, or if this was in the middle of the NBA playoffs, which got great viewership because it was about basketball with the Knicks and, of course, with the Thunder and, of course, the Spurs, Knicks, Spurs. The Knicks in general have been a great story there. But it's not. So the WNBA is at a good time. That's a positive that I can put on this story that is somewhat negative, okay? wanted to start off with that. By the way, thank everybody, my new subscribers, and I see a lot of viewers starting to pop up here. New subscribers from Uber, from my ride share. I see you. I want to thank you all for coming on the program and subscribing to my outlets there and listening to this program. I'm starting to see viewers pop on the screen. I greatly appreciate it. And folks, let me tell you, once football season starts, this will be a live show minimum Tuesday through Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. Okay? So stay tuned for that once the season starts, whether it be the college or the pro, probably the NFL. Okay, now let's get into this story that has gotten a lot of buzz over the weekend. Indiana Fever Sophie Cunningham clothesline. This is, like I said, very and I may have a cut of that, but I think I deleted it. I'll try to find it. She was clotheslined by Chicago Sky's guard DeJohnny Carrington. So let me show you the clip and see what you think.
Excessive is flagrant too. That's excessive.
That's excessive.
By all precedent we have seen in this league prior to that foul, you would have to believe it's going to be upgraded to a flagrant 2.
Okay, let's see it one more time.
Excessive is flagrant 2. That's excessive.
That's excessive.
Let's see if this.
Okay, here are the quarter.
Nope,
I mean, if you want to be treated
To the ground.
You know, so as you can see, this was a flagrant 2. She was kicked out of the game. Again, this is DeJohnny Carrington, guard there from Chicago Sky on Sophie Cunningham. She was kicked out of the game and had the audacity to go on Threads, which is kind of like Facebook's version of the X out, and said that was white privilege, which is, I had to look this up on Gork here. And let's see. What did Gork say, which is the equivalent of Google? But they said it right here. And I'll read it here in just a second here, folks. Okay. Gork says this is, wow, I've got so many notes here. You have to bear with me here. Yes, white privilege functions as a racist term in practice. It's a racial generalization that assigns collective unearned advantages or guilt to an entire group of people solely based on skin color. This is a textbook definition of racial prejudice, threatening individuals as avatars of racial category rather than persons of own circumstances and historical outcomes. I could not agree more. Obviously, I mean, that is a given here. I made some more notes here about other NBA incidents. And I'm sorry, folks, I've got so many notes here. You'd have to bear with me here. Okay. Now, there is other issues here. You say, why did she do this? Is it more than just a hard basketball foul situation? Sophie Cunningham has come out and said and quoted as saying that she is she's against biological men playing in women's sports. Okay. This has triggered, and this has came out over the past week or so. Excuse me, I got something coming up on my phone. Sorry about that. This has come out, and over the past week or so, she's gotten a lot of pushback from that. And Caitlin Clark kind of took a nonchalant type of answer. Didn't have a stance on it. Didn't want to cause any kind of commotion. And former NBA players have now went to the stance of what I think should have happened a while back and said Royce White former NBA player, and Enes Kanter said they intend to apply for the WNBA draft and make it a point to stop this ridiculousness. And you know my stance on it. This is a basic comment. This shouldn't be a political thing, but this has been made to be a political statement by certain individuals, both on the right and the left, and it should be. This is the common sense. Biological men should play men's sports, and biological women, should play in women's sports per se. For bone structures and stuff, this is all signed. This is a basic layup for anybody. Okay, and polls say that. All right, now, like I said, Royce White has made wrote an official letter to the WNBA about doing this. So this has caused meetings with the WNBA to talk about this ridiculousness, which is a layup. But like I said, this is going back to a bigger point I'm about to make in just a second. So going back to this Carrington, it's came out that she is lesbian. So she's supposedly she's for biological men playing in the WNBA. So there's some speculation that this is caused because of that. Like I said, this has turned into some type of political bias. So again, with her saying the racial comment on the Threads social media that this was some kind of white privilege, this is a very offensive thing to say. But listen, folks, Carrington should be suspended an additional 5 games with a massive fine for that comment. Going all the way back to the NBA, Kobe Bryant back in 2011 was once fined for calling the referee the F word rhyming with maggot, fined $100,000. That was considered a homophobic slur. ESPN fired radio political personality commentator Rush Limbaugh back in 2003 for saying sports media made too much of Donovan McNabb's play for that Eagles team back in 2003 because he was a black quarterback. There was complaints by certain media outlets, other media. Washington Post made a big fuss about that, and eventually he was fired back in 2003. Okay, Kyrie Irving was once suspended back in 2022, if y'all remember, for posting a anti-Semitic documentary link on his social media page there. He was suspended like 5 games or something like that. But Stephen A. Smith was not disciplined. He was not disciplined by ESPN for saying Steve Nash got his head coaching job with the Brooklyn Nets because of air quote white privilege. Okay. You can't say that it's not offensive. If that is considered offensive to that particular race or group, okay, that should not be allowed. I'm not saying the government should censor you. I'm saying large companies, corporations, these major league sports companies, corporations should use that as saying if you're calling a black person, they're saying that they're black fatigue. I think that's pretty offensive. When you see, paint all black people in a certain way, if you see a video of some black kids, doing something mischievous, doing some type of crime or whatever, it should be the same type of penalty across the board. Other examples, going back to that Stephen A. Smith comment with the white privilege of Steve Nash getting that job with the Brooklyn Nets and not getting any disciplinary action from ESPN. Mark Jackson, no NBA experience, hired as a head coach. Derek Fisher, no NBA experience, hired as a head coach of an NBA team. Jason Kidd, all former players, point guards, fired as NBA coaches, all black per se, fired as NBA without. So the white privilege thing was just a throwaway, lazy comment by Stephen A. Smith a few years ago about Steve Nash. And he was not penalized. He was not punished for that by ESPN by no means. And you listen, this going back to the WNBA, this is all lack of leadership. from these leagues. You've had Draymond Green make racist comments about a white referee in the NBA getting on to him about some. I mentioned that a few months ago. That caused a little backlash when I clipped that. So we've got to get to this place. And listen, folks. I do not think that the race relations. There's been studies of there's more interracial couples now than it's ever been in the history of society. But I do think that we have gotten to a point where we're so much weak leadership in society of like I said, company, corporations, politicians, whatnot, that we're allowing the black race, and I'm not saying, you know me, I've got plenty of people of color and all races, nationalities, sexes come on my program. For those of you who've been following this program for the 9 years, but I've been doing it. But that group has gotten a pass for saying offensive things. But I want to, my friend Odette, who's Mexican descent, she sent me that link, and I want to thank you, Odette, for sending me that. I really do. And she is not a white person. So I do think that we can get back to the place that we were before, say, 2010, when Twitter started really taking off and pushing these divisive, racist turns. You said, where did this stuff come from? I think it gave a voice to a lot of these professors and that are, you want to call it far left wing, radical, that push all these narratives and whatnot. I think that it got pushed through social media, which is spouted far left wing. Northern California, there's been studies done on that, and that's one of the reasons why that's hateful rhetoric, anti-white racism rhetoric and anti-Asian racism rhetoric. When you got with the Harvard lawsuits and whatnot. I think a lot of that got pushed about 2010. I want to say, even though it's not a political show, but there's some speculation that and a lot of proof that Barack Obama pushed this, the former president, in his second term around 2010 with the police shootings, exaggerating police shootings and not giving the full statistics of that. The fact that, blacks statistically do most of the crimes, 13% of the population, I think it's between 60 and 80%. That, going back to that, not to make this show about that, but I'm saying that's where this level of divisions came out because, we weren't at this place before, like, say, 2010, 2011, when you had the smartphones and you had that social media pushing that and opportunistic popular. So this is causing more and more racial divide and hate groups on both sides, all sides, in different. But I just think we've got to get to a point where leadership, starting with the leagues like the WNBA, has got to say, okay, though that term is that's just as bad. That term white privilege is just as bad. And saying somebody is this and that because they're white, you can't take any crap from a white referee. That stuff are not going to be tolerated anymore. And just to like it, you cannot say the N word or black fatigue, or you can't say the anti-Semitic. What Zion? What I forgot what that was called there. Xenophobic remark. People discriminate from biggest. You have to keep it all across the board. Okay, if you keep it across the board, you'll stop. I know Ryan Clark's been fired, but people just saying those hateful things that you didn't hear in the 90s, early 2000s, like on the ESPN, like a Bobani Jones or Ryan Clark and Jamel Hills of the world. Like I said, Rush Limbaugh was made an example out of from ESPN. You got to hold everybody to the same account, and I think it would help. It would help shame the small minority, and I do think it is a small minority of the black races, just like you have white races and Asian races and Hispanic races all over the world here, And if society as a whole comes together and shames, I think these voices will become low and this spread of hatred will come to a stop per se. There has been many, and I've mentioned this a few weeks ago when Dan Patrick.
I mean, if you want to be treated as a serious.
Dan Patrick talking about the commissioner of WNBA being too afraid to being asked about this. This is from a few weeks ago, blowing off his interview at the last second. Listen up. Listen.
I mean, if you want to be treated as a serious league, then do these. This is what happens. These are tough questions, but this is a fair outlet for you, a fair platform. I will treat you with respect, but don't say yes. And then all of a sudden, somebody probably said, oh, maybe we shouldn't do this. Well, at some point, you have to do this. And she's 50 yards away. She's hitting practice shots out of the bunker. This is an important league. There's expansion. There's conversation. It's been agendaized. Everybody has something to say about it. Now you have a chance to answer these questions.
Yeah, so I do think that, and there is reports that this commissioner will be fired at the end of the year. She'll be removed. And you just got to get some strong leaders. You, like I said before, you need a David Stern type of commissioner, former NBA commissioner, to say, listen, we're tired of the way the players are dressing at these press conferences with this thug gangster style. We need to start putting a dress code in. And it really did help the image of the NBA. It really did. And although he was called air quote racist at the time, the players started liking it, rolled with it, and I'm sure they got plenty of endorsements and clothing deals out of it. But that takes a tough decision there. You know, you need a strong leader like a former commissioner of the NBA who's really made it great from what the work that he did in the early 80s with Michael Jordan and making us a global sport and having those hard stances against and having that iron fist against these sort of things and not having that weak leadership. Okay. So I'm optimistic that these problems are going to get solved. And I do think the racial problems that have been going on, I think they are. And listen, I'm on TikTok constantly and got my ear to the ground. And I'm starting to see people of faith, Black people speaking out against this type of racism and hatred. And kudos to them for doing so. All right. And I do think that the ones that are racist are starting to get lower and lower. You know, it's a great start when you remove Ryan Clark a little bit late. And like I said a few weeks ago, I hope he bounces back, has a change of heart. The people who do look for the racial angle, that they, like I said, same thing for people that are white races as well. Okay. But we'll see what happens. It does make for good sports talk. But I'd rather get into the fun stuff of sports. I don't really like talking about it. It sounds like I do, but I really don't like talking about those sort of things. I think they're very toxic per se. As I mentioned at the beginning of the program, I really wanted to be ahead of where I'm at on picking these divisions, but I put a lot of thought into this NFL talk here. And last week, you all saw me. I did pick the NFC East, and I went way out on the limb. Could be wrong. I did pick the Giants to win the NFC East, and I saw the odds on Get Up today, and they picked to finish dead. They have the highest odds to finish first in the NFC East. So I'm really going against the grain. I might get my butt kicked on that one. I just got a feeling the defense is really going to come together, and I picked the Commanders to finish last. And like I said, and of course, second place would be the Eagles and the Cowboys, and there'll be tiebreakers in there. I want to say they're both like at 10-7 or something like that. It'll be a tight division, except for the Commanders. I think they'll finish dead last in the East. Okay, now the NFC North, the Chicago Bears. Let's see what we got here. Sorry, I get this stuff sent to me here at the last second here on my phone. You know what? I'll mess with that later. All right, the Chicago Bears here. Let's go back to the start of the Bears. There is some pick here. This Lindy's magazine is picking the Bears to finish third. You know, the Bears they were a few plays away from going to the NFC Championship games last year. So I do get a sense that the Bears are on a little bit of they're actually being a little bit overlooked, if really. That being said, there is this write-up here that that this Lindy's magazine says, quote, they showed what was possible long-term way last year by leaping from an offense that was to sixth by a weaker schedule and a remarkable ability to win late. Brought into question how really are they, how much are they the real team? Most NFL teams don't survive by rallying in the fourth quarter for 7 wins or leading the league in takeaways, despite the absence of a strong pass rush or run defense. Okay, so that's what this – and so I had to go ahead and look. Let me see. Okay, they keep sending me stuff here. All right, I had to go ahead and look and see how bad was the defense here of the Chicago Bears. All right, and I went down and made some screenshots here. This was from Google AI. This is about 5 different sources. They finished, folks, 29th in total defense last year, allowing 361 total yards per game. Their pass defense was 22nd. Their rush defense was 27th. I mean, that's towards the bottom of the NFL. They have upgraded their safety play. I like Kevin Byard. They did move off Kevin Byard. But I will say this, they're probably going to put more safeties in the box here. They're going to they added guy, remember Kobe Bryant from the Seattle Seahawks. And I mentioned this guy in the draft here. And I'm trying to find him. This Dylan Thiesman from Oregon, probably one of the best, other than Caleb Downs, of course. The second best safety in the draft. He is a missile. This guy is going to be athletic. You're going to be able to play him and or Bryant in the box to help with that run defense. We saw how potent their offense is. I do believe in Ben Johnson. Caleb Williams, I'm about 75% sold on Caleb Williams. You saw the weapons that this team has from an offensive perspective. They have an influx of wide receivers. That's why they moved off of DJ Moore, traded him from for an extra second round pick with the Buffalo Bills there, the DJ Moore trade, But, they've also added guys like Devin. But listen, Devin Bush, linebacker, I want to say he played for both the Steelers and the Ravens, per se, here. Kobe Bryant, Nevin Gallimore signed a 2-year deal at defensive tackle. So I do think the Bears, they're going to improve enough on the defensive side here. This magazine did also say that this cornerback here, Jalen Johnson, remember he signed that big deal a little while back here. They said he's technically on the hot seat here. This is their great corner, Jalen Johnson. This is what the write-up was. Considering Johnson's 2025 season, the safe expect his conditioning and workouts will be heavily scrutinized by the team. Johnson suffered an off-season groin injury. Personally training prior to last year's training camp, needed surgery. He played only in 19 games, and never resembled the Pro Bowl player held been just getting back healthy enough to play admirable. But the Bears paid him $76 million over 4 years on that 2024 contract extension. He's missed 24 games in the last 6 years. and play the full season only once his contract can be disposed by the end after this season. So I don't know. I think he can bounce back. I think this safety play, you say, well, what about, I don't know, defensive back, rookie, but you're also bringing in veteran Kobe Bryant, who played really well with the Seahawks last year. Ronnie Lott, some of you older folks don't know, Ronnie Lott, one of the greatest safeties of all time, I want to say he won like Defensive Player of the Year his rookie year, and of course Defensive Rookie of the Year, and helped propel the 49ers to the Super Bowl. That's how good a safety he was. So he was a safety. Now you can't do some of the stuff he did, but I'm just saying, for example, a player like this can help a team out a lot. So I don't think they're going to fall down that much. They've got 10 guys on offense coming back from last year, and you saw the kind of weapons that this team has. By the way, they've Darrell Wright, they extended him in the offseason there at right tackle. Very good move. I know Luther Burton is a little banged up right now, but looks like he'll be ready for week 1. But you got Cole Kmet, Colston Loveland there. Romaduzzi had a foot injury last year, and they were still 6th in total offense there. And, of course, you got DeAndre Swift there at running back. This team was right there. They were a few plays away from the NFC Championship game, and now they're being picked to finish 3rd in their division. So, listen, their schedule is pretty tough. They got to play – they got Philadelphia this year. They got to play New England this year. They got to play at Seattle this year. They got to play Jacksonville, Buffalo, and, of course, their divisional opponents, which is not going to be an easy out. All that being said, I got this Chicago Bear team finish 11-6. They're going to be right there in the mix of things, okay? So, listen, I think they're going to play a lot of those safeties in the box. I think Johnson's going to have a comeback year. I think this offense is potent enough to be with the absolute best of them in the NFL. You saw how they finished last year against Green Bay, coming back 21 points. Overtime, just an overtime loss to the Rams last year in that particular game. Okay, so they're going to be that much more confident this year. And of course, it's going to be on Caleb Williams if they don't, or the defense if they don't. Okay. And of course, you still have, with Caleb being on his rookie contract, if things do look sluggish, they can always make a trade deadline move to one of these bad teams and bring some help in from a defensive perspective, which that deadline's usually around November or so. So, in the Bears, I trust to make a run and get back into the playoff hunt, finishing 11-6. Okay, now the Detroit Lions. So the Lions, they were in the news a lot. They were in the news a lot for the wrong reasons in the offseason. If you're a Lions fan, Terrell Arnold got into some off-field trouble. Remember, he was released by the team. I guess Brad Holmes and the organization felt like Arnold was not truthful with them about an incident that happened in Tampa, Florida, or something of that nature. So he has been released. That is not good per se. That being said, they've had some issues also at their center position with Ragnu. Remember, they wanted to bring him back. They wanted to bring their center back from retirement. He could not pass a physical. But that being said, folks, the biggest move they made was in the offseason was moving off offensive coordinator John Morton, who replaced Ben Johnson, and they hired Drew Petzing. Keep that name in mind, Drew Petzing, from the Arizona Cardinals. Arizona was in a lot of shootouts. I know they picked 3rd in the draft. They were in a lot of shootouts last year. Jacoby Brissett, a backup, holding out for more money. had a pretty good year, 23 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, considering he was playing with Arizona last year. And I tell you what, they look pretty sharp. I really like this new hire on the offensive team. But that being said, and they have some issues with their new center, who's a little banged up as well, but he will be back. He will be back. They moved Panay Sewell over there to left tackle, and they've also drafted a right tackle there, this Blake Miller out of Clemson. They're going to move him inside. They've also added tackle Larry Brown. Cade Mays is their backup there. He's got a little banged up. He's going to be back. So, listen, I do think that they're going to bounce back here. They're going to bounce back. They've added, let's see. And all that being said, they still finished 9-8 last year with all the injuries. You know, we got some more notes on them. I do not want to. They drafted edge rusher Derek Moore to add some depth there from Michigan in the second round here. Okay. And like I said, Brad Holmes, very good player there. Who else did they bring in? Listen, they were 18th in total defense last year, 20th in pass defense. Rush defense was 14th. And a lot of times they were playing at a very high level from a defensive perspective last year. But you saw their offense. They've also extended Jahmyr Gibbs. I talked about that on Thursday's program. They've got their running back in place. They've got a very good offense in general. I think they've got their offensive line shored up. Mays, I think, will be healthy week 1. This is a big bounce back year. I do not think their window has closed. And they've got a very favorable schedule here. I mean, they're playing teams like New Orleans to open up the season. They're playing the Jets this year. They're playing a lot of at Carolinas, at Arizonas. Miami's a bad team this year. They've got Tampa at home. They've got, obviously, the Bears on Thanksgiving at home. Okay, they play at Atlanta. You don't know who the quarterback's going to be for Atlanta. Okay, they got a Giants at home on Monday night. And, of course, we know about their divisional play, which will be pretty tough. Green Bay is going to be set back because they've lost a defensive coordinator, and they've lost their best defensive player and their other edge rusher, Rashawn Gary. But they've got Michael Parsons going to be out for a while. So they got a very favorable schedule. It's one of the best in the NFL, which is going to propel them to, I said, a 13-4 record. That's probably a little generous, maybe a little closer to a 12-5-ish type of record here. But I do think they're going to be one of the favorites here to win the NFC North, and to be and also to be frank with you, Lindy's magazine, this magazine I'm going off of, they're actually picking the Lions to finish first as well here in the NFC North division. And again, lot of it. They have had some turmoil at the offensive coordinator position last year, so quite a few injuries, and they still finished 9-8. And they lost some close games last year, okay? So, very close game to Pittsburgh. They probably should have won that game. And they probably should have beat Green Bay last year. So, okay, now, speaking of the devil, Green Bay Packers, just doing it, and I'll give you the order that I see the entire division coming up here in just a second here, folks. All right, now, GB, where are you, Green Bay? Okay, hot seat. This is what Lindy's magazine says. Matt LaFleur. Remember how ticked off I was when they blew that 21-point lead against the Bears in the playoffs? I thought maybe they should move on from LaFleur. I think this guy. But, you know, the fact that they did not have Michael Parsons to help slow that Bears comeback he got a pass here. Now, mind you, they've also lost Jeff Hafley, very good defensive coordinator. Now he's the head coach of the Miami Dolphins there. Again, minimum, Michael Parsons, who tore his ACL back in December last year. Michael Parsons will be out at least 4 games to miss the start of the season. We don't know if he might not be back until 6 or 7 games with the new defensive coordinator. No Rashawn Gary, no Michael Parsons, no Hafley. By the way, didn't I mention that I want to say Josh Jacobs had a little bit of issue, and they've also they lost defensive tackle Javon Hargrave. So, no, they added Javon Hargrave, excuse me. They added him at tackle. They lost Malik Willis, their backup. But they did, and they've also lost Romeo Dobbs in free agency. And Quay Walker, that was a very good linebacker. So, you know, they still got 8 players coming back on defense. One of those players is Michael Parsons. Again, will at least miss the first 4 games of the season. So it does not look good. And Lindy's Magazine is picking them to finish 4th, okay? So I looked at their schedule. I don't like the way this thing is I don't like the way this thing looks. I've got this team going 6-11, you know. They went from this time last year, potential Super Bowl, to losses of key players on defense, to the defensive coordinator, to better coaching. You look how good that Ben Johnson has made the Chicago Bears. We know about this coaching dynamic of this Minnesota Vikings team, which I'm about to talk about in a minute, with Kevin O'Connell, Brian Flores. We already know that Dan Campbell is a very good coach there in Detroit. So they're the odd man out. I do think, listen, they were 9-8-1 last year and backed into the playoffs at the very end. They lost to some bad teams. They lost to Carolina last year, okay, at home. And I mean, I know Carolina slipped into the playoffs there, but Carolina wasn't really that good. That was at home, you know. They lost 16-13 to Carolina last year. They lost at the Giants last year, 27-20. The Giants were picking 5th in the NFL draft. All right. So saying that they're going to be 6-11, I don't think is too far out of the question. And maybe Matt LaFleur, I know that the team is owned by the city, and some of the Packer fans that I've talked to still like LaFleur. He's probably offensive coordinator material only. They've blown a lot of big games. Okay. All right. Probably more of a coordinator than a head coach, which is, you know, more of a CEO type. Okay, now moving on to this Minnesota Vikings team. Like I said just a minute ago, probably the best 1-2 punch there. Kevin O'Connell dealing with the offense, getting everything, multiple quarterbacks last year, including Carson Beck, J.J. McCarthy. I mean, you name it, they went through some quarterbacks last year, and still finished again 9-8. They brought back Brian Flores. His contract was up. This guy's getting $5 million a year. Probably he is worth every penny of that. Kudos to the Minnesota Vikings for giving him that kind of money. I would have paid him that kind of money to keep a guy like that on my staff here. Now, they did lose their edge rusher here is one of their biggest losses. I think it was Keeneland. Jonathan Greenland. But overall, they still got 7 players back on offense and 11 on defense there. 11 on offense, and now they've got Kyler Murray, basically paid peanuts for him. He's on a rookie, less than a rookie deal there, a league minimum type of deal there. For league type of thank you, Kathy, minimum deal there, and they're paying him nothing, less than a first-round rookie. So, as I mentioned, when that happened back in the offseason, I said Murray is going under Kevin O'Connell. We've seen what he can do in short stints with players, guys like Josh Dobbs. Remember, he brought Josh Dobbs in with just less than a week's practice, and they beat the Atlanta Falcons on the road. This guy's a quarterback whisperer. So now he's taking a guy, a former Heisman Trophy winner, first overall pick, Kyler Murray. Although he's undersized, I think they will, like I said earlier, I'm not backing up on that. I think that they'll look good, and I'm being generous by saying this, the first 6 to 8 weeks. Then the injuries will start to mount up. Ultimately, I think McCarthy will end up winning that job, okay? They open up against Green Bay. I think they'll beat Green Bay. I actually think they're going to knock out Chicago in week 2. But they got teams like Miami, New Orleans. They got the Colts off of bye week. They got Buffalo at home on the Monday night game. I got them winning that game. They got teams like Atlanta, Carolina at home, Washington at home, at the lowly Jets, who may get the first overall pick. So I think this is going to be a pretty good football team, 10-7. They'll be better, one game better, because, like, again, they'll get off to a great start with Kyler Murray, first 6 to 8 weeks. He'll get banged up. They'll have to use McCarthy. McCarthy will look good early, and then he'll kind of he'll fizzle out. But the defense will keep him in every game. They've got a lot of big-time skill players. We still got Justin Jefferson there. Decent running game. Very well coached on both sides of the ball. So I do think they will be a legit playoff contender. Again, 10-7. So let's go over the NFC North standings so I can clip this and put it out on my social media links later. I've got Detroit winning. Probably a little too generous towards Detroit because of some of their losses, but I do like the fact that they've got the right offensive coordinator, I do believe, intact. They've got their main key pieces there back. I think they rebound. I said going 13-4. That may be a little generous, maybe closer to a 12-5, but I still got them winning the NFC North this year. I got the Bears, although a lot of people said the Bears are going to step back. Listen, the Bears are a few plays away from getting in the NFC Championship game last year. They've got Caleb Williams on a rookie contract. I still see they say they can make some moves at the trade deadline if they still, air quote, have issues on the defensive side of the ball. I've got them going 11-6. I've got Minnesota going at 10-7. They're going to be right in the thick of things in the playoff wild card hunt. And the lowly Green Bay Packers at 6-11. Let's say this again. Detroit 13-4. Chicago 11-6, Minnesota 10-7, and Green Bay finishing 4th at 6-11 there. So that's my NFC North predictions, folks. I wanted to do another division. I just didn't get time to do it. I'm working 6 days a week now. Still getting some money put back here for the summer. I will get all the divisions in before the season starts. Thank God Labor Day starts about a week later. I will also get, like we talked about Thursday with the Mad New Yorker, we're going to get those college football playoff predictions in as well. Also want to remind you of some other news and notes that I noticed that's happened since since I've last talked to you, and this afternoon. Defensive tackle for the Cowboys, Quentin Williams, $3 million, 3 years. Excuse me, not $3 million. They wish. 3 years, $105 million extension to defensive tackle Quentin Williams. Remember, he was traded from the New York Jets to the Cowboys around. That was another one of those big trade deadline moves. Jerry Jones pulled the trigger on that. Now, mind you, the Cowboys, I also had them at 10-7. So I think they're going to be battling teams like Minnesota and some tiebreakers there. They're going to be battling Minnesota to get in that playoff position. If this very young defensive coordinator is somewhat decent, by the way, the Cowboys are putting out clips of Caleb Downs absolutely balling out, folks, in training camp. He's going to have that big impact, like I said, this Theismann guy is going to have for Oregon, from the Oregon product going over to the Bears. I think both of those safeties, especially Downs, is going to have a big effect there with that Cowboys defense. So they got their tackle set up there, defense tackle, which they needed to help them stop the run. They were horrible last year, one of the worst in the league some weeks, in the middle of their defense. And they got that back end covered with Downs. I think they're going to play really well there. And they got some help there up front with Gary, and they drafted another player in the first round to help them up front defensively, although it was thought to be a reach there. The UCF player, I can't remember his name, that Nick Saban said was a bit of a reach. I think it was at 23rd or something of that nature. They had the 2 first-round picks. So, like I said, if this guy is a decent coach and the Cowboys can get there, I think that 10-7 is not exaggeration. Maybe they go 11-6. You never know. Maybe they win the division, because I know they're going to be there offensively if they keep Dak Prescott and that offensive line intact and keep those guys upright. So that's a big news. Kudos. Cowboy fans have to be excited about keeping a player like that. No disgruntled players coming in that I know of, other than maybe a George Pickens, who's going to play. You want to keep a guy like that balling out on that franchise tag there, wanting to get that big deal from somebody. I see him playing really well opposite of CeeDee Lamb for the Cowboys coming up in this particular season. As I mentioned the other day, this is still happening, still being clips shown out, still being reported that Shedeur Sanders with the Cleveland Browns looks to have the edge right now. And Coach Munson said that he's going to get more first-team reps over Deshaun Watson up there in Cleveland. That's one of the more interesting quarterback battles between Watson and Shedeur Sanders. I know this J.J. McCarthy and Kyler Murray's also been somewhat, air quote, a little bit of a battle, but everybody thinks Murray's going to get that edge early in that one. We're still not sure. Some reports are still saying that maybe Watson still has the edge over Shedeur Sanders. I don't believe those reports. I do believe what I'm seeing, the majority of the clips showing Shedeur having the edge over Deshaun Watson with this Cleveland Browns team, who's got a lot of young, talented players that they hit on. Guys like Harold Finn, for example, Spencer Fano, rookie out of Utah, tackle there, getting into it with one of the defensive tackle or the edge rusher they brought in from the LA Rams. I can't remember his name, but he's a very good player that they brought in from the Rams in the Myles Garrett trade. So very good stuff coming out of Cleveland, as I expected. And Carlos, the Mad New Yorker, mentioned he thinks they're gonna win the division. I don't know about that, but maybe, you never know. There's a lot of holes in that division right now. Okay, it's very winnable if you ask me. All right, folks. If you like the show, share the show. I'll be back on here. I could be back on here live this week before Thursday with the Mad New Yorker, but you'll see me on here. I may have some issues with my tags, and I may not be able to work one day, but I think I'll get it squared away. But if I don't, I'll be very happy to come on here, because I got to catch up at some point and get you some more of these divisions picked. We're running out of time before this great NFL season starts. This weekend, we're going to have a lot more preseason games to talk about coming up, so I can't wait to talk about that. If you like the show, please share the show. And again, if you're watching and you have not subscribed, please subscribe to that at the Real Sports Scope YouTube channel. Thank you, and have a good night, everybody. I'll see you next time here on the Real Sports Scope.